This is Sparta! This is a 1994 JaaJ XJ222222. You see, cars like the Ferrari F40 and the Aventador and the Bugatti Veyron and the Ferrari Veyron and the Aventador and the Bugatti, everybody knows about them. They get all the but. This car is just as special, and yet it isn't as special. Unfortunately, climbing into the XJ220 is easier done than said. The door only opens to here. But once you get inside, you are very much inside. And speaking of windows, let's discuss the ones in the door. To control them, you have window switches in the middle, in the center console, and they function like normal window switches. Push them down, the window rolls all the way up. And speaking of the windows rolling up and down, it's worth noting that when the windows roll down, they don't roll all the way up. You push the middle of the steering wheel, and that's the horn. So what does the horn sound like in a Jaguar XJ220? Well, take a listen. Bruh. And next up, we move on to the startup procedure for this car, which is rather unusual. To start it, first you put the key into the ignition and turn it, which is pretty standard, but then you put the key into the ignition and turn it, which is pretty standard, but then you press this unlabeled red button next to the ignition. And next we move on to the climate control situation. The climate vents, I'll start with the fact that the driver has 4 of them. You have 2 over on the left, and 2 over on the left. Although it's worth noting that it's a latch to open up the engine compartment, but it's a button to open up the trunk, the luggage compartment. You press that button.
The machine starts roaring and hot air rushes out of a silver spout.
This car comes from the pop-up headlight era, but Jag didn't want to have boring, normal pop-up headlights, so instead you turn on the headlights and this happens. And so those are the quirks and features of the Bugatti. Now it's time to do it. It's time to get it out on the road and see how this thing drives. All right, driving the XJ220 and thereby fulfilling a childhood dream of mine. This is so cool.